two books are Jeeves in the Offing and Joy in the Morning. They are two novels by the British novelist P.G. Wodehouse, who is not perhaps the best novelist ever, but I do believe that he is the funniest novelist ever. It is him I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to talk about his works and about his humor. In the first place, his works. In his long 94-year life, P.G. Wodehouse wrote an incredible number of novels, short stories, and even lyrics for musicals. But I'm going to focus on his novels and short stories. His best-known works are the novels and short stories about Jeeves and Wooster. Jeeves and Wooster tell the story of a young, fairly rich man named Bertie Wooster, who perhaps has more money than brains, and gets into all sorts of ridiculous scrapes. They also tell the story of his valet, Jeeves, who invariably gets him out of these scrapes. They are very funny stories. They are his best-known stories, and they've even inspired a television show called simply Jeeves and Wooster. But Wodehouse made many other stories about many other characters, including Blanding's Castle. Blanding's Castle is another of the worlds which Wodehouse created. It is inhabited by mostly the inhabitants of Blanding's Castle, particularly Lord Emsworth, whose one interest in life is pigs, in particular the Empress of Blandings, his prize-winning pig. Another character who Wodehouse created and who is well known is Uckridge. Stanley Featherstone Haw Uckridge is a man who is older than Bertie but younger than Lord Emsworth, who is perhaps less rich than those two also. He is constantly coming up with somewhat ridiculous get-rich-quick schemes, which he bemoans because he says that they would inevitably work if only he could get a bit of capital. Wodehouse also came up with other characters, including Uncle Fred, who likes to spread sweetness and light, and he also came up with the golf stories, stories about life in general through the prism of golf, told by the oldest member of a golf club. So that is Wodehouse's works. Now I'm going to talk about his humor. Wodehouse's humor there are three categories of Wodehouse's humor: situational, language, and quotes. In the first place, his situational humor. This is probably what Wodehouse is best known for. It is the ridiculous situations that its various characters get themselves into, and which, while they would be unpleasant if one was in them, are incredibly amusing to read about. For example, in a certain short story, Bertie Wooster is staying at a country house with several other people. His hostess is Roberta Wickham. Roberta Wickham convinces him to puncture the hot water bottle of his friend Tuppy Glossop while Glossop is asleep. Bertie agrees to do so. He sneaks into Glossop's room at about 2 in the morning and punctures his hot water bottle. The person lying in bed sits bolt upright, and it turns out that it is actually Roderick Glossop, Tuppy's uncle, with whom Bertie is feuding. Glossop is extremely angry and forces Bertie to trade rooms with him, so that Bertie and not Glossop has to sleep in the wet bed for the rest of the night. Later that night, Tuppy Glossop, sneaks into Bertie's room and punctures Bertie's hot water bottle. Roberta Wickham had convinced him to do this as well. However, Bertie is now traded with Roderick. Roderick, for the second time that night, wakes up to the feeling of an exploding hot water bottle and a wet bed. Chaos, of course, ensues, but this chaos is hilarious. Another form of humor that Wodehouse uses is his language. His language is extremely proper and well-written, but it describes things in very funny ways. For example, of a smart person, he says, Sherlock Holmes could take her correspondence course. Or of a person's expression, which is both angry and upset, he says that that person looks like a vegetarian who has just discovered a caterpillar in his salad. Finally, another form of humor that Wodehouse uses is his quotes. He takes many learned quotations from many different works of literature, and he puts them to his own use in his books, a use which is perhaps not foreseen by the original authors of these quotes. For example, of a character who could afford to lose a few pounds, he says, "Oh, that some of his too solid flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into a dew," or that. This, of course, is a quotation from Hamlet about committing suicide. Shakespeare never intended it to be about gaining weight or losing weight, but Wodehouse twists it to this use in a very funny way. Another example of this is a certain very strong drink called May Queen, whose full title is, "Today shall be, of all the year, the maddest merriest day. For I am to be Queen of the May, Mother, I am to be Queen of the May." This is a quotation from Tennyson, and presumably it refers to the feeling this drink inspires in its drinkers. So those are some examples of Wodehousian humor and of Wodehouse's works, and I hope that they will inspire you to read the works of the funniest author ever.